Hello, this is David and welcome to the Top 10 Worst Dungeons Game Boy and Game Boy Color Edition. These handhelds were a huge part of my childhood. Spanning all through my grammar school years, I took them everywhere with me on road trips, vacations, shopping trips, you name it. But man, back then Nintendo really didn't focus on a pick up and play mentality. They acted like you were always at home and had all the time in the world to go through some of the dungeons in these games. So, let's relive our collective childhoods as we celebrate these horrendous dungeons. Number 10. Pokemon Red and Blue, Mount Moon. One word, Zubats. I hate Zubats. Mount Moon is a relatively simple dungeon to navigate, but it's just chock full of trainers and swarming hordes of Zubats. It's the first cave region of the game, and up until this point there has been a clear distinction of where you can fight wild Pokemon, just the tall grass seen in the routes as well as in the Viridian Forest. Not here. Once you enter, you'll quickly discover that each step brings with it the chance to encounter a Zubat, like a 75% chance. This is made worse because the fights are just so long. The Zubat knows only two moves, Life Leech and Supersonic. Life Leech drains a tiny bit of health while also healing the Zubat, further extending the battle, and Supersonic has an exasperating chance of inflicting the confused status ailment, meaning that you're locked into a fight of attrition, where your Pokemon stands there just hitting itself while the Zubat slowly heals itself back up to full. Thank God for repels. Number 9. The Final Fantasy Legend, The Underwater Castle. To be honest, I pretty much hate all of World 2. It's just such a slog and pretty much bereft of plot development. The other three worlds are much more well done. There's the whole check every single decorative rock on the entire world map to find the one that floats thing. And then this stupid underwater castle. The cave to get here is just filled with dead ends, and then this castle has random encounters coupled with fixed octopi encounters too. Normally evading them isn't so bad except for the part where the paths are one block wide, pretty much forcing the encounter. Once you reach the end, you have a pretty easy orb puzzle to solve in hindsight, but I remember 8-year-old me having no clue what to do here and checking every single orb until I got the red orb, which was an arduous process because if you check the wrong one, you get a forced encounter. Saying this place sucked is putting it mildly. Number 8. Luffy The Legend Returns, All the Random Dungeons. How are you gonna go from having like the best dungeon design ever to grace a video game in Luffy 2 to this lazy random garbage in its direct sequel? I hate random dungeons, and this is some downright bullshit. Instead of having to look around carefully crafted dungeons, solving hard puzzles, and being rewarded with unique and cool treasures, you're instead running around corridors and square rooms avoiding monsters and cutting every inch of grass and chopping down all the torches that you see trying to find hidden random treasures and the next set of stairs. Each dungeon has a set amount of floors that you have to traverse before you reach the end. This means that dungeon crawling is even more monotonous than ever because a tower feels like a cave and feels like a ruins. Everything is the same. I'm so glad this shitty random dungeon fad fell to the wayside. Number 7. Final Fantasy Adventure, Undersea Volcano. Towards the end of the game, you have to travel to 4 elemental caves and fight 4 elemental fiends. Sound familiar? Well, it shouldn't be that way because this is a mana game, not a Final Fantasy game. Anyway, I digress. Though they each have their own annoying gimmicks, the worst of the bunch is the Undersea Volcano. A volcano's gotta have lava, right? That's pretty standard. But it's also pretty standard that stepping into lava will drain your HP, and most games have it set to either 1 or 10 HP per step. Not here. In a game where your max HP is probably somewhere around 250, the designers, in all their wisdom, decided that each step will take off 120 HP. That's crazy town. 3 steps in that lava and you're dead. So you're thinking, hey, just avoid it. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can't. There are multiple times that you have to step in the lava to proceed. It's ridiculous, and you waste all your MP healing yourself, only to get to the end to have to use even more MP for those annoying turn the enemy into a snowman and push him onto the switch puzzles. Then, when you're thoroughly drained, they throw the boss of the place at you. Joy. Number 6. Pokemon Gold and Silver, Mount Mortar. More Zubats! Should I just throw my Game Boy out the window? Take all the problems that I already outlined in Mount Moon and multiply them for Mount Mortar. First of all, Mount Mortar is one of the most complicated caves in the entire series, with 3 different entrances, 4 floors, several HM puzzles, and it's very easy to get lost in. But that's not the worst part. Kyo is the worst. He awaits you at the end of Mount Mortar, and to get to him, you need to have a Pokemon who knows both Strength and Waterfall. Then fight him, and he'll let you have his Tyrogue. But here's the big screw you. You already have 6 Pokemon in your party, so now you have to go all the way back out of this hellhole, go to a town, go to a PC, deposit the Pokemon that doesn't know Strength or Waterfall, so that you can go back into Mount Mortar and go through the entire cave all over again, so that you can get a Pokemon that the game should have just deposited into your box for you. Number 5. Final Fantasy Legend II, Nasty Dungeon. The only saving grace of this place is that it's optional, but if you don't go through here, you'll miss out on some of the best treasure in the game and probably wind up doing the circle walk and grinding anyway, so I'm sure just about everyone goes through this torture. At least it's aptly named. The Nasty Dungeon is a true maze going off in many different directions, but at least there's great treasure at most of the dead ends. And don't get me started on the encounter rate. Satan himself controls it here. It's like 1 encounter every 3 steps, no joke. Not to mention the fact that you have breakable weapons and limited magic charges with no items to restore either. Inventory management is part of the challenge here, and you'll find yourself dropping equipment just to loot the next chest. Then, there's the total bitch move at the end where the fairy sends you back into the middle of the dungeon if you don't say that it was hard enough. Number 4. Ninja Boy 2, Fort Mars. This is more of a horrible boss gauntlet than a dungeon. Basically, the Stealth 6 are all in Fort Mars, blocking your path, and you've got to kill them all. Here's the good news. You don't have to fight them one after another, you can go back into town and heal up between the fights, but there's also bad news. There's such a major difficulty spike that you're going to have to gain about 10 levels from where you were at the previous dungeon, and gain up 100,000 sen to buy the best magic in the game to even have a snowball's chance in hell against them. Also, let's say that you're halfway through fighting them and you need to get your password to go to bed or eat dinner or whatever. Do not do this, because the biggest bastard move of all is that when you come back, they'll all be alive again. So kill them all, then save. Nobody wants to go through this torture twice. Number 3. Great Greed, Blizzard Mountain. Ugh. This is the dungeon that stopped me from beating the game all those years ago. For the uninitiated, let me guide you through it. First, you have to walk a winding, repeating path not once, not twice, but 6 times for it to finally quit repeating. Then you enter a cave with huge hallways and mazy paths that all look the same. There's 5 floors of that. Then, when you think that you're done, you're not! You still have to walk back down the mountain. But there are multiple branching paths going down that mountain that have the bad habit of ending in dead ends. Did I mention it's also filled to the brim with difficult enemies too? This is where I quit in frustration when I played it as a child. We can all look back now and say how easy it is when we have save states, strategy guides, maps, and the internet. But in 1992, this was crazy hard, and Nintendo Power had a bad habit of ignoring JRPGs not from Square. Number 2, Magination, the Shadowhold. This place is huge, so huge that it's at least 3 times as large as any other place in the entire game. But mercifully, it's optional. After you're imprisoned here, you can just be a selfish bastard and take your stuff and get the hell out. Or you could be a good JRPG hero and rescue the other prisoners here. This is one of those switch key mazes where you have to hit switches to open up paths and collect shadow keys to open up the cells of the other prisoners. The encounter rate is through the roof, and there are super easy block pushing puzzles strewn about that serve no other purpose than to just slow you down even more. At least doing the side quest is worth it. After you free the prisoners and return home, they'll give Tony some pretty nice stuff, including the Cloud Frond that you need to cure Orwin. But man, this place takes forever, and to make it worse, can't save either. And finally, number 1, the Sword of Hope, the Underground Labyrinth. In a game already known for being mazy as anything, here we have the one maze to rule them all. The Underground Labyrinth is filled with tons of forks, hidden paths, traps, rooms that teleport you around to other parts of the dungeon with no explanation, and worst of all, just out and out random stuff that the game gives you no hints for. Such as having to be in one specific nondescript room to use a fairy lamp as an item in order for a secret door to open and move on to another part of this never-ending hellhole. Also, it's jam-packed to the brim with druids. These guys have 100 HP and they love to drain both your HP and MP, and to make it worse, they're very resistant to physical attacks, so you have to use even more of your limited MP to take them out with attack magic. Then you have a boss fight towards the end who has the most bastard move of them all, a heal-all spell. Yeah, the fight takes forever because he will just continually restore all of his HP. Basically, you just have to stumble around in the dark, trying everything and making a map by hand to have any hope at all of ever getting through this place. Well, that's it for the top 10. Hope that you guys enjoyed this, and what are your worst dungeons on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color? Also, the rest of the portable systems are coming up soon. What are your worst dungeons on them? Let me know in the comments, and as always, have a good day.